the vast and complex universe of Marvel Comics, there is a mysterious and powerful character. He is known as the Black Hulk, a terrifying entity, completely different from the familiar Green Hulk image of Bruce Banner. The Black Hulk is not only a variant of the Hulk, but also the first person to possess the terrifying power of the Super Serum, opening a dark chapter in the history of superheroes. To understand him, we need to embark on a journey to discover the origin, power, and tragic fate of this entity, a character with both sharp intelligence and uncompromising cruelty. Black Hulk, real name Leonard Williams, was originally a brilliant scholar, a prestigious professor at Cambridge University, where ancient corridors covered with moss and silent libraries contained treasures of human knowledge. With neatly combed gray hair, sharp eyes hidden behind silver-rimmed glasses, and a deep voice, Williams is the model of a dedicated scientist, always immersed in complex experiments. He is not only wise, but also has the desire to change the world, a burning ambition that ultimately leads him down the path of destruction. Early in his career, Williams met a promising young scientist, Bruce Banner, who would become the famous Green Hulk. The two quickly formed a mentor-student relationship, working together on a secret project to recreate the Super Soldier Serum that transformed Steve Rogers into Captain America. Their laboratory was located deep in a top-secret facility, where cold fluorescent lights illuminated glistening test tubes and flickering computer screens. Long nights passed as Williams and Banner analyzed DNA sequences, tested chemical compounds, and faced repeated failures. Williams, with the patience of a mentor, always encouraged Banner to push the limits of conventional science, but he himself was swept up in the fever of ambition. However, a terrible event changed everything. During a fateful experiment, a massive explosion rocked the research facility. Concrete walls cracked, black smoke billowed, and the sound of shattering glass mingled with screams. When rescuers arrived, they found only rubble and charred bodies. Leonard Williams was presumed dead, his name buried in the official report as a casualty of the accident. The public never learned the truth. Williams did not die. He had survived, but he was no longer human. Under the influence of an experimental serum, his body transformed into a superhuman being, more powerful and terrifying than anything the world had ever seen. He was the Black Hulk, the first person to wield the power of the Hulk before Bruce Banner. The Black Hulk's strength is a terrifying marvel, a combination of superhuman intelligence and indestructible physicality. When transformed, his body swells, his muscles rippling like granite carved from a mountain. His skin is not green like Banner's, but a glossy black, like obsidian, reflecting light in a haunting and terrifying way. His eyes glow red, like two flames burning in the darkness, and each step he takes causes the ground to shake, leaving deep cracks in the concrete. Physically, the Black Hulk possesses strength far beyond that of a regular superhero. He can lift a tank as if it were a toy, hurl giant boulders hundreds of meters without difficulty, and endure attacks that even the most advanced weapons cannot scratch him. His speed is also incredible, allowing him to move like a hurricane, leaving trails in the air. His regenerative abilities are almost immortal. Even the most serious wounds heal in seconds, making him a nearly unstoppable opponent. But Black Hulk's power is not limited to his physical abilities. His intellect, honed over decades of study, remains intact if not enhanced by the serum. He is able to analyze tactics in a split second, predict his opponent's moves, and plan with deadly precision. Unlike the Green Hulk, who is often driven by blind rage, Black Hulk is a cold, calculating, and ruthless being. He wields his power with surgical precision, each punch, each move with a clear purpose. After the fateful explosion, Leonard Williams disappeared from the civilized world. He took on a new identity, Tyrone Cash, a name that conjured up images of an outlaw, a dark specter wandering the wastelands. With his new body and terrifying power, Tyrone Cash began a brutal journey, leaving a trail of death across continents. In Africa, he appeared as a nightmare, destroying small villages with punches that cracked the ground, blood and smoke filling the air. In Asia, he took on criminal organizations, not for the sake of justice, but to assert his power, turning dark alleys into battlefields of ruin. Gradually, Tyrone Cash turned his sights to South America, where he built an underground criminal empire. In the dense jungles, where sunlight barely filtered through the dense foliage, he ran a network of smuggling and violence. He appears in a sleek black suit, but the Black Hulk's glowing red eyes still betray a deadly presence. Those who work for him both fear and tremble in his presence, knowing that the slightest mistake could see them crushed. Tyrone Cash is more than just a crime lord. He is a god of destruction, an entity that cannot be challenged. As Tyrone Cash wreaks havoc, S.H.I.E.L.D, the world's top-secret intelligence agency, begins to take notice. From its headquarters, where giant screens display a world map with flashing red dots, S.H.I.E.L.D's head, Nick Fury, tracks Black Hulk's every move. Intelligence reports describe him as a high-level threat, an entity capable of destroying an entire city in a matter of hours. Fury, cigar in hand and steely in his eyes, decides that Tyrone Cash must be stopped, but he could also be a valuable asset if controlled. S.H.I.E.L.D launches a covert operation to close in on Tyrone Cash. On a rainy night, as lightning streaks across the South American sky, an elite task force confronts him in an abandoned warehouse. But the Black Hulk was not to be trifled with. He tore through steel walls like paper and threw agents through the air like rag dolls. Fury, however, had a backup plan. Instead of destroying him, S.H.I.E.L.D offered Tyrone Cash a place in the Ultimates, the most powerful superhero team in the Ultimate Universe, with the promise of power and protection. Tyrone Cash, with a cold smile, accepted the offer, but not out of loyalty. To him, the Ultimates were merely tools to serve his own purposes. In a battle suit specially designed to contain his powers, he stood among the Ultimates, a tall, intimidating figure that even veteran superheroes feared. But this partnership did not last. Under the guise of an Ultimates member, Tyrone Cash continued his criminal activities. He secretly traded the Super Soldier Serum on the black market, granting superhuman strength to those willing to pay a high price. The transactions took place in darkened rooms, where the dim glow of neon lights illuminated his cold face. He handed vials of the glittering serum to crime lords, who then transformed into monsters inferior to the Black Hulk, but dangerous enough to cause chaos. S.H.I.E.L.D eventually discovered his treachery. Nick Fury, filled with cold fury, ordered Tyrone Cash's arrest. But before S.H.I.E.L.D could act, a legendary monster hunter, Blade, came after him. In a fierce confrontation on a desolate field where the wind whistled through the dry grass, Blade used his silver sword to weaken the Black Hulk. Under the silver moonlight, the blade flashed, cutting through his obsidian skin, causing him to roar in pain. The Black Hulk's strength was slowly draining, and for the first time, he felt human weakness. Blade, with the precision of an assassin, did not kill Tyrone Cash, but handed him over to S.H.I.E.L.D. He was taken to a giant helicarrier, where the cold metal corridors echoed with the footsteps of the agents. Nick Fury, standing before the bound Tyrone Cash, said nothing. Fury's eyes flashed with frustration and anger. For a brief moment, the space became silent, except for the distant roar of the ship's engines. Then, with a single shot, Fury finished off Tyrone Cash, ending the existence of the Black Hulk. The death of Tyrone Cash, aka Black Hulk, at the hands of Nick Fury on a S.H.I.E.L.D helicarrier seemed to close a dark chapter in the history of the Ultimate Universe. But in the world of Marvel Comics, where secrets lurk beneath the surface of reality and ghosts from the past always seek to resurface, the Black Hulk's story never really ends. He, once a symbol of scientific ambition and unbridled destruction, left behind a complex legacy, a web of intrigue and consequences that spans generations. To understand more, we must delve into what happened after his supposed death, uncovering the mysteries that have never been revealed, and how the shadow of the Black Hulk still haunts the superhero world. In the final moments aboard the carrier, as Nick Fury's gunfire rang out, Tyrone Cash's crimson eyes seemed to fade, his massive body collapsing to the cold metal floor. The S.H.I.E.L.D agents stood around, their cold faces hidden behind tactical masks, watching the death of one of the most powerful beings they had ever faced. His body was taken into a sealed chamber where neon green light illuminated the immaculate steel walls. An official report was drawn up, declaring the Black Hulk destroyed, and the world breathed a sigh of relief, believing the threat was over. But the truth, as is often the case in the Ultimate Universe, was far more complicated. Tyrone Cash was not dead. His incredible regenerative abilities, a trait that not even Blade or S.H.I.E.L.D could fully eliminate, had saved him. In the darkness of the sealed room, as the agents left and the lights dimmed, his body began to vibrate. The deep wounds on his obsidian skin slowly closed, each muscle twitching like small waves on the surface of a lake. His crimson eyes slowly opened, flashing a ghostly light, and a cold smile spread across his lips. Tyrone Cash, or rather, Black Hulk, was back, but this time, he decided to operate in the shadows, away from the eyes of S.H.I.E.L.D. and the Ultimates. He escaped from the aircraft carrier in a perfect act. Under the cover of darkness, as the storm howled and lightning tore through the sky, he broke through the steel wall of the cell, leaving behind a pile of rubble and twisted metal. He jumped into the cold ocean, his massive body sinking into the black water, disappearing like a ghost. S.H.I.E.L.D's sensors picked up nothing, and Nick Fury, though suspicious, had no evidence to pursue. Tyrone Cash was now a ghost, a being on the fringes of the world, but one that still wielded the power to shake the planet. After his escape from S.H.I.E.L.D., Tyrone Cash did not return to South America or any of the other places he once ruled. He knew that the eyes of Fury and the superheroes would always be on him, and to survive, he had to change. He chose to operate in the shadows, building a global criminal network more sophisticated than anything he had ever created before. From the dank alleys of Tokyo, where neon lights reflected off the slick pavement, to the golden deserts of the Middle East, where hot winds blew through makeshift tents, Tyrone Cash became a name whispered in fear. He no longer took direct action as he once did. Instead, he used his razor-sharp intellect, honed in his days as Leonard Williams, to manipulate criminal organizations from afar. In sealed rooms equipped with high-tech monitors, he sits in a black leather chair, his red eyes scanning digital maps and intelligence data. He coordinates the smuggling of the Super Soldier Serum, which he has continued to develop in secret since leaving S.H.I.E.L.D. The glistening vials of serum, filled with glowing green liquid, are transported through clandestine routes, from rusted shipping containers at seaports to luxurious leather suitcases in five-star hotels. But Tyrone Cash is more than a smuggler. He has created his own army of serum-infused warriors, none of whom are as powerful as the Black Hulk. These warriors, with their bulging muscles and soulless eyes, act as his extended arms, carrying out robberies, assassinations, and sabotage around the world. In a Rio de Janeiro slum, they stormed a bank, ripping open safes with their bare hands, leaving behind shattered walls and blaring sirens. In a Southeast Asian jungle, they wiped out an army of mercenaries, turning the area into a battlefield filled with smoke and fire. Though Tyrone Cash operates in secret, he cannot escape the spotlight forever. Other superheroes in the Ultimate Universe, from Captain America with his shiny vibranium shield, to Iron Man in his shimmering red and gold armor, begin to notice the signs. Superhuman attacks are on the rise, and reports of monsters with Hulk-like powers are everywhere. At an emergency meeting at the Triskelion, the Ultimates' headquarters, giant screens display images from the scene: collapsed buildings, cracked streets, and shattered vials of serum. The first to suspect the return of the Black Hulk is Bruce Banner, now the Green Hulk, a former student of Leonard Williams. In his personal laboratory, Banner stands before a whiteboard covered in complex equations, his hair disheveled and his eyes tired from sleepless night. He analyzed the serum recovered from the scene, recognizing the chemical signature of his former mentor. "Williams," Banner muttered, his voice low as memories of his days in Cambridge flooded back to him. He knew that there was only one person in the world smart enough and ruthless enough to create this: Tyrone Cash. The hunt for the Black Hulk began. The Ultimates deployed task forces, working with international organizations to track him down. But Tyrone Cash was always one step ahead. He used secret bases, hidden deep in limestone caves in Eastern Europe, or underground in abandoned cities. Whenever the Ultimates got close, they found only empty rooms, broken screens, and burned vials of serum. Tyrone Cash seemed an untouchable ghost, an entity that always lurked in the shadows. But what even the Ultimates don't know is that Tyrone Cash is hatching a much bigger plan. In a secret underground base, deep beneath the Sahara Desert, where giant machines roar and the light of reactors illuminates the metal corridors, he is developing Project Resurrection. The project is to create a new version of the Super Soldier Serum that not only enhances the physical abilities of those injected, but also allows him to control the minds of those injected. His idea is to build an immortal, completely loyal army that can overthrow both S.H.I.E.L.D. and the Ultimates, making him the ruler of the world. His base is a technological marvel, with shiny metal walls, hissing power lines, and vials of serum lined up in glass cabinets. Tyrone Cash, now clad in a black suit of armor designed to enhance his powers, paced the labs, his crimson eyes scanning every detail. He was no longer the brutal criminal he once was. He was a scientist, a strategist, a god reshaping the world to his liking. But his plan was not perfect. One of the soldiers injected with the serum, a scarred former mercenary, began to rebel against his control. In a violent rebellion, he destroyed part of the base, leaking information about Project Resurrection to the outside world. The data fell into the hands of Tony Stark, who quickly shared it with the Ultimates. For the first time, Tyrone Cash was cornered. The final confrontation between Black Hulk and the Ultimates takes place in the Sahara Desert, where golden sand stretches endlessly under the blazing sun. The Ultimates, led by Captain America, the Green Hulk, and Iron Man, attack Tyrone Cash's underground base in a meticulously planned operation. As they enter, explosions shake the ground, black smoke billows, and the clash of metal echoes like a symphony of war. Tyrone Cash, in his shiny black armor, stands in the center of the base facing the superheroes. "You think you can stop me?" he roars, his voice echoing like thunder. He charges into battle, tearing through metal walls, throwing giant machines like toys. Captain America, with his vibranium shield, tries to stop him, but each punch from Black Hulk makes the ground shake. The Green Hulk, in a rage, faced him head-on, the two giants colliding, sending shockwaves that cracking the very fabric of space. But Tyrone Cash was not fighting alone. His army, serum-infused warriors, poured out of the corridor, attacking the Ultimates with superhuman strength. The battle became a nightmare, with blood, fire, and smoke mixing in the air. Iron Man, soaring in the sky, bombarded the base with glowing plasma bolts, while Thor summoned lightning, lighting up the desert. Finally, Bruce Banner, in the form of the Green Hulk, managed to approach Tyrone Cash. For a brief moment, amid the ruins of the base, the two faced each other. "Master," Banner said, his voice low, "why are you doing this?" Tyrone Cash, with a cold smile, replied, "Because I am the future, Bruce, and you are only the past." But Banner did not give up. He lunges at Tyrone Cash, the two engaging in a brutal battle that completely destroys the base. When the dust settled, Tyrone Cash's base was a pile of rubble. The Ultimates stood in the middle of the battlefield, exhausted but victorious. Tyrone Cash, badly wounded, lay amid twisted metal, his glowing red eyes fading. This time, there was no chance of regeneration. Bruce Banner, in his human form, stood before him, his eyes filled with grief. "I once admired you," Banner said, before turning and leaving. S.H.I.E.L.D. then sealed off the area, destroying all traces of Project Resurrection. Tyrone Cash, aka Black Hulk, was once again declared dead.